The first review of the night is Bad Hair, right? Let's see. Bad Hair on Hulu 2020. We have been waiting on this film since it was announced.
Was it worth the wait?
Early, we're gonna talk about it. Since way earlier this year, they talked about it coming. Bad Hair, so it debuted on October 23rd. If you haven't seen Bad Hair, I suggest that you see this movie
because it was, for me, it was definitely worth the wait.
It was definitely worth the wait. So let's go through it. Ellie Lorraine is Anna Bludso. Jay Farrow is Julius. Lena Waithe is Brooklyn. That sounds crazy. Me sound like that. Vanessa Williams is Zora, and Zora has a initial story beat at the beginning of the film. There's something very traumatic that happens to the main protagonist in this film, and Zora's product, I'll say, has something to do with it. So you have to look out for that, because you might miss it, because we watched it twice. You know what I mean? Because it was so much to capture and so much lore to get that we watched it twice, right? Kelly Rowland is Sandra, right? And it is directed and written by Justin Simeon, right?
Let's say, I just want to say with Justin Simeon, he spoke about this project like maybe a year and a half ago. We heard him during an interview because we reviewed his other show, Dear White People.
That's right.
So he's the creator of that. So while he was being interviewed for Dear White People, he talked about this Bad Hair project that he was working on. So we have been like anxiously waiting on it. So
yeah, we were waiting on it, right? Yeah. We knew that it would be a good product, right? But so let's go through the synopsis.
Okay.
Taking place in the late 80s, New Jack, Jam and Lewis, Janet, Bobby Brown era, full of slave lore tales, one in particular. A woman dreams of advancing her career as a VJ producer and is willing to go through the pain to get quote-unquote good hair from quote-unquote bad hair. Is it worth the cost? Right? Let me tell you something. This film is full of, you know, as the director said, as we get into it, as we talk, as we're going to go and press an interview piece that he was in. There is a subgenre in Japanese films about hair horror, I'll call it, right? Like The Grudge.
Yeah, that was horrible.
You know. And so this film, you are totally gripped by this film, I'm going to say. You are gripped by this film from beginning to end. The way that they depict the weave from the very beginning. This is the 80s. This is like when it first began, right? And so the way it's depicted and the way it's described and the way that it is done is based on true fact. I know that Justin Simeon researched this, right? Because back in February 6th of 2013 in the Daily Mail, there was an article called From Blinding Headaches to Bleeding Scalps and Permanent Baldness, the Hidden Dangers of Hair Extensions Revealed, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he really reviewed, You decided to use... He really covered ground with this piece, right? And we have an interview piece that we're getting ready to play right now. So get ready for this, because he really goes into what he was thinking, and it has some of the cast. So we want to go through and play this, because you should be watching this film for Halloween and beyond, because it is just that good.
Well written.
Wait until we break down, you know, various categories we break down, from cinematography to believability and all that.
Right.
Stay tuned for that. But this is an interview that they did. And of course, we're going to stop and give commentary in between, you know, give context. You know how we do. So check this out right here.
You decided to use the horror satire genre to talk about society's relationship with black women and their hair, black women and their own relationship with their hair. And why was this the way you wanted to tell the story?
You know, it started off having a conversation about Japanese and Korean horror films in particular, where there is a bit of a subgenre for hair horror. And I had seen a movie called The Wig and a movie called Extensions, and was like, this feels so... Those movies themselves are not very American, but I felt like there's an American story in this. And I just sort of... I grew up with those 70s, 80s sort of gritty, kind of Brian De Palma, sort of psychological thriller, kind of satirical mashups, and I just felt like, wow, I would love to see something like this, but with our people in it, and about an issue that I felt was important. And, you know, all of the women in the film are named after my mom and her sisters. I feel like I owe a debt of gratitude to black women. And I just felt like I felt like that was the system that sort of marginalizes and oppresses black women, and sort of, I didn't really want to moralize getting a weave or not. I wanted to sort of make something about like the system that sort of gives people just one or two choices in order to move ahead. I wanted to take that system to task, and I thought it'd be a really fun way to do that.
Well, how did you guys relate to this as women?
I personally have never had a sew-in weave, but I did perm my hair for most of my life until I was about 16, and then realized this doesn't look good on me, and I don't like the feeling of it. And I just woke up one day and was like, my hair feels dead, I'm done with this. And I started locking it, and that was its own journey of hair, especially being an actor with locks. No one knew what I was doing or why or how to do it or work with it. And I almost lost a job because the hairstylist told the director, like, I can't do anything with that. And it took me, before I locked my hair, it took me a year to decide to do it, because I was weighing, I'm an actor, is this something I want to do? I'm going to limit myself for roles. Do I care? Like it was a lot of soul searching before I decided that this is something I wanted to do in my heart outside of my business. But how many women outside of the black community have to go through that? Take a year to decide about a hairstyle. So this for me was like a validating, like, I see you moment. Yeah.
What do you think about that? You know, taking a whole year to decide if you want to go natural or twist or lock. Like, what do you think about that? Is that something that would be really a concern when, because you know, Whoopi Goldberg, Whoopi Goldberg always had locks.
Well, see, it depends on the person, and we've always seen Whoopi with locks, but we don't know her journey. We don't know if it took her a year to decide if she wanted to decide to lock her hair, right? Whoopi Goldberg.
No, but remember, she made it from off of doing her one-woman show. Right. And remember Ghost? Right. They put a wig over the locks. They did. They put a wig over the locks. But we don't know what Whoopi's, prior to her doing her one-woman show, before us as the audience, before Whoopi was introduced to us, we don't know what her hair journey was, right? So, but as an actress, you know, I can see where she was going with trying to figure out what to do with her hair, because like, I know, like, on my journey, when I went from, like, I didn't have a choice. Most of us back then, like, we had like grandmothers who would press our hair out, right? And then once you became of age, then, you know, your mother would put the kitty kit in, right? So how old was that?
I guess kitty kit was maybe, 12, 13, maybe?
why were people getting kitty kits?
I believe it was being done because, like everything else, a fad, right? It was a fad. It was on the market. You know, they saw the ads in Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine. They saw the commercials during Soul Train, right? So it was a fad, like everything else. Like right now, you see people putting the pink or blue or purple like clip-ins in their hair. Like if they don't want to dye their real hair, they'll put the clip-ins. So all it was a hairstyle fad, right? Just like people went through the with Jerry curl and was the wave nouveau fad. It's just different hairstyles, right?
Okay, so was that a low self-esteem thing? I'm just asking, was that a low self-esteem thing to women because they didn't, American black women because they didn't like their hair?
No, I think it was more of a fad, just like today. Like you see women who, I remember that fad where some women had the gray in their hair, right? Young people, they dyed their hair, they had gray in it. And so, I mean, it was just a fad because luckily, when you go natural, like such as like what I decided to do, you like in my mid-20s. So I wanted the ability to be able to play with my hair. So what I did was when I wanted to wear, well, first of all, I let the perm grow out. Some people cut it off and just go completely short hair, or some people go bald. But I just let mine gradually like grow out. So I just did like braids or French rolls, ponytails. And every time I went to the beautician, she would cut it out little by little. So meanwhile, while she's cutting out little by little, my natural hair is growing in. So I never went straight into the short hairstyle, right? With natural hair. I went into the natural hair phase with, I guess, with shoulder length hair. So I didn't want to do the chop, so I let it slowly grow out. But what I love about natural hair is when you want it to be full and curly, it is in a full curly natural state. If you want to press it out, like I go to my beautician and she'll just take the flat iron and she'll press it out if I want that look, right? I feel you have more versatility with your hair when it's natural. Because first of all, you're not putting any chemicals in it, so that's a plus, right? And you have, like you said, versatility. You can press it out if you want it to be straight. If you want it to be thick in its natural state, you can leave it in its natural state. You can braid it. You can, do twists. You can do so much more with it when it's in its natural state. That's how the process some people take. And some people like process hair. Some people like for their hair to be straight all the time. Some people don't want their hair like in curls or curly. Some people want it just flat straight, which is fine for them. So as women, we have the diversity. We have, because being a little girl, I remember my mother would always say, we have the ability to play with our hair and do so many things with our hair, being women or, being girls. And like with the makeup, you can play with the makeup. She always said that we can wear any shade of makeup, right? And so, it's just about style. It's just like fashion. So I don't think when people put weaves in their hair, they hate themselves or they're trying to be somebody else. That's not the case. It's just like clothing, changing clothes, changing hairstyles. Like every season, there's a new style, whether it's a color for that season, an outfit for that season, a particular shoe, a certain shade of makeup for that season. It's just fashion style, changing up your look. That's all. It has nothing to do with self-hate. It's just having fun. Just like you did with your dolls.
I definitely relate to like every piece of this film. Like I was talking about at the premiere last night, whether it's washing my hair in the bathtub, getting a relaxer at a very young age, having a sew-in. I have a sew-in now. And it's interesting, it juxtaposes to the film because I have a sew-in as a form of protection for my natural hair in an industry where I'm constantly getting my hair done and no one knows how to protect my own hair. So it's a form of protection for me. I am grateful for my sew-in because that's how I can maintain the integrity of my natural hair. And I think that's something that a lot of people might not know about Black women and what we're dealing with in the industry. But I've I've been through I've also walked into rooms where I felt like maybe people didn't see me, maybe saw me less because of my natural hair, or didn't, I wasn't as validated because of having this big natural hair that nobody really understood except for people that looked like me. Every part of bad hair has been cathartic for me, and I think it's been cathartic for all of us in some way.
And you know it's changing when you start seeing it on the runways. You know, you start seeing it on the runways, you start seeing natural hair, and then you start seeing some people kind of mess it up, you know, in their own kind of way. I'm sorry, I just went totally left. Because I just remembered something that I just saw. And it
The
was,
wigs?
Yes.
The wigs.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an example of, you know, misrepresentation. But getting back to bad hair, yes, absolutely. I think that there have been many times, but I mean, can we just go back to that time period of like 89? Where, you know, the hair was it. It was like it to have that weave, that specific weave. And Justin was very specific about that Janet Jackson weave. And you just wonder how this woman is tossing her head left and right ever so quickly, and it's not flying across the room. It's because she's got that thing on. And it's beautiful and it looks effortless, and that's what we wanted. You know, it made it look easy. You know what I mean? And I think that for so long we were told as Black women, well, I don't know what to do with that, and this is hard, or you know what I mean? It's always a scrunched face or a complaint when it comes to taking care of our natural hair. And this was a new, easy. It was my dream come true. It was my dream come true. I mean, I remember like the first time meeting Janet and stuttering. So to get this opportunity, I was like, okay, so I go home and look at tapes, and me and Justin were like having different notes while I was recording. And
she plays a Janet-esque character.
Yes.
Kelly Rowland plays Sandra.
Yes.
She's a secondary character,
Yes.
but she plays a big part, a big inspiration in the protagonist's life.
Yes, she does.
It's just pretty much like Kelly Rowland said that Janet played in her life, but what she said about that weave and that pleasure principle. You know, where that weave, where she was doing the pleasure principle, and that hair was bouncing around, and it wasn't, you know, the wig didn't fall off, right? Because it wasn't a wig, it was something new, right? And this is what this movie really, you know, really examines, is that era and that period, right? But it's something that is catastrophic that happens, that you just have to see this film, right? You just have to see this film. Now, moving on from that interview, you can see that on YouTube. Let me tell you that we constantly talk about good hair, bad hair. It comes back into the lexicon. It stays with us constantly, and it's something that we have to get off of that wheel, and get into get out the mindset, and get into a mind state where it doesn't matter, right? Now, a perfect example of how it keeps coming up. Back in February 1988, a classic movie was released called School Days. And there is a musical number, called The Wannabes and the Jigaboos Wanna Be Like Me, And it talks about good and bad hair. It talks about the weave. And then later in 2009, Chris Rock delivered in October of 2009, Good Hair, which was a documentary, So, you know, so this is like the opening sequence to what's going on. If you haven't seen School Days, you have to see School Days. And if you haven't seen Good Hair by Chris Rock, you have to see it. So ever so often, so 21 years to 11 years,
Because look at what they're doing in the schools, they're they're in different cities. They are passing bills to protect. The parents are really proactive, right? And they're making sure that there are bills being passed for their children, and they're not being harassed for wearing their hair in a natural state, right?
That's true.
So, I guess they're kicking us off because I guess for them, in certain areas of society, it's some type of taboo to talk about wanting to wear your hair natural. There's this push to want everybody to conform and look basically what they're comfortable with, right? Do you remember years ago, one of my friends, she did the chop with her hair. She went totally natural and just chopped off all of her hair, right? And as soon as she chopped it off and went natural, I remember you teased her. You were saying, oh, well, if you go natural, chop it off, they're going to, what did you say? They're going to get rid of you or put you in the basement or something. Well, we laughed and joked about it because we thought it was crazy, right?
Right.
She did the chop, went natural. They asked her at work, are you okay?
Yeah.
Asked if she was going through any changes. And what did they do?
They put her pretty much in the basement.
Yeah, they demoted her and they, made her move downstairs.
Yeah.
Underneath the lobby, as we call it, the basement. So,
Right.
hey, that's why it's, Facebook is kicking us off because it's, for some crazy reason, it's controversial to want to be natural, to talk about natural hair.
Yeah. I mean, that's really
Crazy.
weird.
That's
It's
crazy.
really weird that they would kick us off talking about it, but it's okay because we're still on because my system just recalibrates and we come back around, right? So part 2 is coming. We're sharing it right now to the people. Now, so that was the clip that I cut up of that to talk over it, right? And such a disappointment when they do things like that and they kick us off because we're on a crescendo and we're making a point, right? And we're bringing information and disseminating information. So anyway, back to, what's that say? Network connection era. They keep telling me on the Facebook it's a network connection era, right? Era, lost internet connection, attempting to reconnect. All right. So look, people. They kicked me again. Okay, listen. So what's interesting about the film is that you find out that people who are victim of a certain taboo bad hair find a way to, if they are owners, they find a way to own that has victimized them and use it for their own sinister purpose, right? That's what you find when you're dealing with people. They find a way to make their sinister thing. What's going on, Tanya M. Congress? She said, "Hey y'all, hopefully this is still going here." Yeah, I'm looking down. Okay. All right, so look, bad hair. Let's break down the breakdown on it. Okay. Right? Cinematography. It's a 10. Yeah. The angles that Justin uses are not pedestrian. They are high quality, almost Hitchcockian with his own flavor. Yes. They are not pedestrian. That's a 10, right? Yep. Storyline, through line is a 10. Imagery and slave lore. Yeah. Telling the story.
That was beautifully done.
That was a story beat. Yeah. That's a 10.
Beautifully done.
The character arc of Anna is amazing. Yeah. Because she had to stretch from, as an actor, she had to stretch from a shy person to a uninhibited person when, I'll just say, possessed.
Right.
Acting skill and emoting.
Right.
The close-ups, the way that she was able. Blair Underwood is in it, right?
Yeah,
Blair
job.
Underwood makes, you know, the white woman's catnip, right?
He plays her uncle.
Right?
Right.
He plays, there's a scene where he notices something.
Oh, yeah.
And his face is just so subtle.
Right.
It's subtle, but you catch it that he caught it.
Yeah.
And he's finding a way to get out the way, right?
Right.
Wardrobe and set, that's a 10.
Right.
Sound mixing, that's a 10, right? Locations.
Right.
The locations that they use to bring about the late 80s feel, that's a 10. Story beats, we already talked, full of story beats. They go from the slave lore to her as a child to her in the late coming of age in the late 80s, right? That's a 10. Believability. This is extremely believable, and it has you on the edge of your seats when it comes to its crescendo and it's getting there, and it's a funny scene in this door, behind this door. I want to say that, and then it's just hilarious, right? But it's serious at the same time.
It is, because we just talked about, when you mentioned believability, right? It's believable because we just discussed a friend of ours who actually experienced this in the workplace. Right? And so the main character, Anna, is experiencing this in the workplace.
Right.
So it is truly believable.
Historical facts. That's a 10.
Yeah.
You know, there is such a tree, and we're not going to say the name of the tree
because we want you to watch
they reference,
the film.
But there is such a tree.
Yes.
Right? And so that's a 10, right? Bad hair. What would you rate Bad Hair?
A 10.
Yeah.
I would definitely give it a 10 because it's well written, it's entertaining, it immediately moves once it begins. There isn't a dull moment in the film at all. And I love how he, the folklore. I love how he placed the folklore in the story. Completely believable. I love how he tied in this particular tree because we looked that up. That is completely believable. The acting was great. It was the all-star cast was great. Right. He did a really great job. And because again we reviewed Dear White People, right? And he did such a good job on that show. We're waiting for the next episode of Dear White People, the next season to start. I wasn't surprised that Bad Hair was gonna be good because like we said, Dear White People, the writing, that's a great show. And we knew that Bad Hair had to be good because again, he talked about this like years ago. So it was definitely worth the wait.
So Bad Hair is a 10. And to get context, watch School Days. Get it uncut. Right?
Spike Lee School Days. Right? 40 Acres and a Mule, a Spike Lee joint. Then get Chris Rock's Good Hair documentary. Came out in 2009. Watch that, and then watch this. And then that'll give you context to what's happening. A film that was in the 80s, one that's in the 2000s, and now this one is in the 2020s. Right.